All right, everyone, welcome to this daily Sidereal Astrology forecast. So today we got the moon in Gemini, a bit of inquisition perhaps today, maybe doing some things like reading, writing, maybe some journaling, sharing of information. Really getting into the practical side of things I think can go very well here today. The sun is going to be in Capricorn as it has been, so still a great time for seeing the big picture. Right, maybe a bit of reserve in the way we're expressing ourselves or focused on things. And again, it's also we can be integrating these qualities of patience, persistence, reserve and groundedness collectively as the sun passes through Capricorn. So today we don't have a whole lot going on astrologically speaking. We are finishing up from yesterday's Jupiter retrograde. So things are still being sort of integrated with this new shift of our belief systems, maybe this reworking of some possibilities in our life. And again, perhaps just, if there has been something specific since last year, sort of reworking that, rethinking that, reestablishing it in our life for about the next 4 months. Now, the moon is going to be squaring up to Venus and Mars today, so I think there will be some integration with relationships, and maybe even in terms of how we're getting things done, maybe some extra attention in terms of that, which we'll talk about. And I do want to mention that this is a very important week because on Friday, as we go through this lunar cycle, we are approaching a lunar eclipse, and that's going to be a lunar eclipse in Leo, which is always a very important, these eclipses are always very important times of shifting along the life path, along the life journey. And as we approach Friday, more insight is coming in terms of what we may be shifting or changing towards in this continuously new direction from about 6 months ago. All right, so let's go and talk about this in more detail when we return. All right, so there it is, the moon in Gemini. Very good day for anything that involves the practical mind. It could be more introverted, more personal in a sense of maybe doing some reading, writing, things like that. But it could also be maybe getting out, socializing a bit, sharing some ideas, maybe some business, trade, things like that. It's what Gemini is all about. I think most fundamentally today is really accessing just the willingness to learn, regardless of what it's about. And I think in that way, I think it's always good to approach life with this Gemini fashion anyways, of a willingness to learn, to see everything as a learning, gift. And within that, continuously learning and growing and developing as individuals. So Gemini, certainly mental, inquisitive. In terms of the big picture, of course, the sun still has been in Capricorn. Nothing new here. Continuing to focus on things with reserve. Right, with a bit of groundedness. And again, cultivating these qualities within us of patience, discipline, and that big picture. Mercury is getting closer to Capricorn, I do want to mention. So our minds are going into this earthy area, this big picture area, slowly but surely. And I think we'll feel that probably more so towards the week's end. So here's the aspects today, coming off of Jupiter's retrograde, still very much paused in the sky. Good time to just sort of pause and reflect in terms of where we have been expanding back since last year, perhaps with inspirations, potentials, and now starting to rework them. And that's essentially what Jupiter in Virgo has been and now will particularly help us do, is really work on the details and get into the nitty-gritty of the things in life that are expanding or these possibilities. And even too, with Jupiter retrograde, starting to re-examine our belief systems, right? Maybe go within for inner guidance. And that's what's happening essentially this week is there's a shift to the life path. And it's happening on two levels. One is the lunar eclipse on Friday, but the other one is Jupiter retrograde, because Jupiter has to do with the life path, has to do with the expansion, with the adventure. And so now there's this reconsideration. I think what we're reconsidering here today and for the rest of the week will play a role to, again, the much larger shifts and changes that are taking place at the end of the week in regards to this solar cycle, right? The past 6 months, we went off into some new journey, some new direction, perhaps where we could have more passion, more interest in our life. That was Leo. And on Friday, the lunar eclipse in Leo will be helping us gain more of what it is we're passionate about, what it is we can do to cultivate that self-expression of ours. All right, so that is the Jupiter retrograde really syncing up with that lunar eclipse. Today, no major aspects, but the moon squaring up to Venus and Mars does suggest maybe bringing some extra attention to both relationships and to how we're getting things done. You know, Venus is interpersonal, it's wanting to connect and enjoy. Mars is about action, energy, and there's a bit of clash here taking place with these two. And the clash is from the emotional body, which is the moon, squaring up to that Venus and Mars. So let's look at this in terms of the constellations, which I think is the easiest way of analyzing this. You know, we're talking about the moon in Gemini, very inquisitive, learning, sharing. It's all mental. It's, you know, it's all just kind of about the ideas and stuff. Now, Pisces squares up to Gemini naturally. As you could imagine, this is very different. This is about no mind at all, in fact. This is about intuition. This is about being receptive and, you know, going within and just more of a laissez-faire, detached perspective on things. So that's the challenge, is how you can integrate, how we can all integrate, you know, a bit of the inquisitive side of, again, treating life as a learning process, but then at the same time, letting go, detaching, getting intuitive. So when it comes to relationships and getting things done, this has already been very important. And so I think today, just integrating this, maybe with relationships, seeing where we can detach, be unconditional, be accepting perhaps. Venus is actually exalted in Pisces, so it is much easier to do this involving Venus. But with Mars, not so much. All right, so Mars is how we're getting things done. You know, we want things now with Mars. It's everything we want in our immediate environment. It's action, it's drive, it's our independence. In the middle of the ocean, in Pisces, is not the easiest thing. So collectively, I think today really integrating how we can listen to our intuition when getting things done. That maybe not the most direct approach, or the approach that's more directly related to what we want, is necessarily the right path, or necessarily the way to actually get it done. You know, Pisces is about perhaps taking another angle to it, another perspective, sort of feeling, intuiting where there's flow, right? Instead of just going into it head on, like swimming against the current. It's about maybe letting go a bit, seeing where the current is taking us, and then swimming in that direction if that's where you want to put your energy. So yeah, all in all, I think today accessing a bit of the receptive side, a bit of the unconditional side can be very good, while still, again, sharing, learning, using the practical side of matters. All right. Then as we get into the second half of the day, the moon is going to be trining up to up to Neptune. So there is a bit of this easygoingness, you know, even though these are squares from Pisces, there is this side that, especially in the second half, we're probably feeling a bit more receptive, wanting to go with the flow. It's easier to do that, maybe easier to relax. Could be a good evening too for, you know, if you are reading or journaling or something like that. It could be very relaxing, in fact, with that moon in Gemini. All right, so that is the day in a nutshell. Certainly a day of really integrating yesterday's sort of shift of perspectives, of beliefs, you know, with that Jupiter retrograde. And then as we approach Friday, certainly more awareness about the life path, about the journey. You know, and I think in a larger sense, a little bit down the road, specifically what it is that we're passionate about, excited about in life, and how we can express ourselves and do things that are important to our heart. But today, maybe some integration with relationships, extra attention there, receptivity, acceptance can go a long ways, as well as getting things done in that very same fashion. All right, so I hope you guys have an awesome day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.